Hi everyone, ET Mac here with Expert Marketing Advisors. Have my founder and longtime marketer, Courtney Keel, as well. And we have a bunch of live events happening, like Microsoft Ignite coming up. And we're sitting down thinking maybe it's best we create a little best tips and tricks to share with everyone as they're prepping for these events as well. Why? As we see with our clients, events are expensive. And if you don't get the value right, you're spending thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases. And if you don't do it right, it's kind of a waste of your marketing budget, and it can hamper your marketing efforts in the future as well. So, I always like to work backwards, Courtney. So what are some, standard goals that a company should, strive for when it comes to that?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Great question. As you decide to do an event, oftentimes, you're like, why are we doing this? What's the strategy here? And should we do this? You got to think about the budget. Does it fit into the budget? And is it even a good idea to do it? So start there. And goals certainly center around sales. We all work for sales, essentially, is one of a key notion that you always have to think about. So yes, it's always a numbers game. You want to think about how many folks are going to be there. Are they the right folks? Is it your right audience? And can they convert to actual opportunities? And so where are they going to fall into your pipeline? So yes, you want to essentially do the math and figure out, is it going to be worth your dollars, and how you can get the most bang for your buck, so to speak.
Great. And once you commit to an event,
right?
You're going in. What are some, there's like a percentage that you want to capture? How does this work out?
Great question. Yeah, so industry standard is usually 5% capture of the actual attendees' show floors, is what I call it. So however many actually show up to the show, to the event, typically folks capture about 5% is the expected rate of leads that you will come home with. I like to aim a bit higher. Let's consider it a stretch goal, so to speak, a 7 to 10% capture. It really helps folks push for that extra bit of goodness. And you can absolutely get there. You just have to keep people focused and set those goals from the very beginning with your team before they've even stepped foot on site. Have that know before you go meeting. And
get them everyone pumped up and fired up and focused, right?
Right. And have daily goals so you know whether or not you're trending to hit that. And then really push on that last day as well.
Yeah. And it can't all happen on site, right? It has to happen months before, weeks before, the setup leading up to it. The preparation has to be key. What are some recommendations you have there?
Yeah, so you want to make sure that you have an on-site plan. You need to stand out. Everybody wants to stand out, so it gets a little noisy when you're actually on site. But you want to make sure your booth is big and bold, but you don't have to be the biggest fish in the sea. You can be bold with bright colors, and your messaging is to be very clear. But you really want to slow people down when they're passing by your booth. So you don't have to be the biggest booth on the floor, but you have to have a plan for when folks are walking by. That's really some of our best practices over the years that we've developed. We aim for a survey, something that they have in their hand that essentially they have to take for 2 to 3 minutes, and then other folks see that, and then they're like, what's going on here? And it draws their attention, and they see a crowd, and people are attracted to crowds. So it's sort of this collaboration of people that come, and then it gives you an opportunity to give them the elevator pitch as well while they're taking that survey.
Surveys are pretty neat. That's your on-site plan, right? Once they're there and they're already ready to go.
Preparing the team and having that survey tell a story too as they're going through those questions.
Yeah, I've seen those before at a number of different booths. I've seen it carried out a number of different ways though. Either it's a paper survey to fill out a raffle, or some people have their iPads set up all over the place. Like, what do you recommend? Right.
So we've tried both with the tablets, the iPad, and we've also done this paper, good old-fashioned paper, clipboard and pen. We have seen iPads walk away. They grow feet. They fall asleep, and you have to constantly turn them on and figure out the passcode and such. It's actually quite very simple to just have the paper and pen, and people pick it up and just fill it out real quick, and you can process them afterwards quite simply with a Google form. It just pushes through. So I definitely recommend the paper. People aren't as inclined to walk past you.
Yeah, only a couple of questions though, right? We're not trying to get an essay here.
Yeah, 5 to 7 questions. Keep it really pointed, but give some thought to what those questions are, so that you are, again, telling a story after the fact when you process them. The goal really after is to be able to extend the ROI of your event. Write a blog, have an article, be able to put something in front of the media and say, look, here's some industry trends that we're identifying and we've been able to capture from a saturated audience. Aim for 100 or more surveys, so statistically you've got some real meat and something that stands out.
Cool. All right, so we got our 7% of the capture leads. We did it. We prepped everything perfectly. Team's laser focused. Everyone was on site, bringing everyone to the booth. We were crowded the whole time, and now we're about to go home. What's the plan to actually do something with these leads so we can make revenue?
So, well, you absolutely want to have a post-event meeting.
Yeah.
So before you upload the leads into your marketing operations system and push them through to your sales ops and your CRM, so to speak. You want to go through those leads and your team that was on site. You want to make sure you put in all the various notes, because while you've got your lead scanner, it's becoming harder and harder to actually put all the notes in. Folks nowadays are using their app on their phone as a lead scanner. So really that phone is primarily tied to the phone owner. So we are finding that the notes are not being captured as much as they once were. So definitely have that post-event meeting with your on-site team before you push it into your CRM, and make sure you've got all of the goodness that was taking place on the show floor captured and pump it into your.
That's a great point. I don't know how many times I've had it happen where my teams come back from an event and you look at the lead list and you see a prospect you really want, and all you see is hot, talk to Todd. And Todd's on your team, but he decided to go on vacation. And you're like, what does this mean? And you're dying because you're like, I need
a little more information.
I'm like, this is hot. I don't want to mess it up. Like, what does Todd know?
Right.
And then he goes, who's that guy? I don't know his name. Like,
you definitely want a timely follow up as well.
Yeah.
So if there is a situation where somebody's on vacation, you can do the handoff and keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So I hope all that helps. We just finished up an event actually last week. We have found capturing podcasts with our show floor attendees is also really exciting for people, and they immediately reach out and say, when do I get my podcast? I'd love to have that. It's a nice nugget of some content for us to use, and also we're finding our audience is really loving that as an asset for themselves as well.
That was a great benefit. And for you guys watching, the story was this. We were on the floor and we're presenting the sales pitch, and also we have a live podcast going. And the best time to get that recorded is in that moment, because your prospect, they're walking through all the attendees, they hear your pitch, and so that's all they know at the moment. So they're repeating you word for word, line by line, and now you have them on camera. So before they go off to the other 5,000 booths and forget you a week later, you can send them a video and be like, I was there. I wasn't just another blue booth, with all these colors and stickers.
Blue is very common.
I was there and I said these exact lines, which is your company sales pitch, and it resonates with me in that moment. And that's way different. That's super impactful, guys.
We have an example of one of our newer companies that just came out of stealth mode 2 months ago, and we've ironed out their messaging. We tested it. This was our first show for them, and so it was exciting to be testing the pitch. And yes, one of our attendees came by. One of the attendees was cruising by, and we gave him the pitch. He took the survey, and then he saw the podcast, and we asked him if he'd like to talk shop and capture some of the industry trends that he's seen. And it was his first time at that particular show. So we were just having a nice conversation. His first ever podcast, and I said, well, what do you think about the specific client? And he repeated back the messaging, which was absolutely validating for us we knew we had nailed it. It was really great to hear. And so sure enough, yesterday he reached back out and said, do you have the podcast ready? Which we almost do. We like to put tips and tales on our podcast so that they're nice and buttoned up and really clean. So we'll have that to send it back out to them, which also allows our sales folks to have something more to talk to them about and continue the conversation.
It's a great reference point.
Right.
All right. Last thing before we go, any additional tips and tricks that people may, they don't put enough energy into that they could see some more value?
Right. So events, as you said, are so expensive. It's really probably the most expensive marketing tactic out there. But you really want to extend the life of the event after the event, the post event. And this is where I like to elevate it to the digital side of things. Look to process your surveys, turn them into the articles, turn them into the blogs, even make an infographic out of it, which oftentimes I do find people are missing infographics in their library of assets. And they're nice, quick, they tell that story really quick and they resonate for your top of funnel. Same thing with podcasts, process those, even transcribe them. Folks sometimes don't listen to podcasts, but they'll read them. Everybody consumes assets differently, and you can post those on various channels, syndicate them in all different ways, and also have them on your website. You can do internal and external linking on the transcription. So the internal linking strengthens your website, kind of like calcium for your body. And then down your keywords, which also gives you SEO value. And then external linking on keywords also increases your digital footprint. It's like broadening your real estate, which is also truly valuable. You can extract specific key quotes, which will stand out and validate your market, which a lot of people are looking for. It helps with investors too. And then even grab that logo. And whoever you spoke with, get that logo. And that also is really valuable for our website. And as marketers know, we're always looking for those logos. So again, extending the value, getting that extra ROI for justifying your event spend. Those are all great takeaways. And we've captured this in our event best practices. So by all means, if you want just a quick way to pull out these tips and tricks, they're all there for it.
Yeah. So thanks for your time, guys. Like Courtney said, there's a million different ways to consume assets. And so we will have a visual version of this in our events best practices playbook coming out right after this webinar. And on top of that, if you guys want to hear the story as well, feel free to reach out. E.T. Mack at Expert Marketing Advisors and Courtney at Expert Marketing Advisors, or just reach out on our site and we'll be happy to schedule some time to talk. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for talking with me.
Yeah.
It's always fun to talk shop.
Cool.
Thanks.